So today we are going to be discussing how to create your logline, or as we also call it, your manga pitch, right? So this is essentially one sentence that'll sum up your entire manga story, right? And this is the type of sentence that you need to have ready when you're pitching your manga to potential publishers or to editors, right? So this is a very important step that every mangaka needs to have needs to get done, right? It's not making your manga. It's not drawing your manga or even storyboarding. This is actually the most crucial step for when you want to already start considering getting published or getting your work reviewed by professionals in the industry. So that's editors and various manga publishers. So, yeah, this is what we're going to be talking about today. And this is a free training. So, we will be giving a free discussion on what you need to do to make your manga pitch or your logline, and we will be giving free feedback to three lucky loglines today. We'll also be making your loglines today, you guys. So yeah, who's excited? Is anyone excited for today's discussion? And are you guys ready? I just want to know, are you guys ready for today's discussion? Is everyone settled in? Is everyone um good? If we're good, then I'm gonna start already, okay? So if everyone's good, I'm gonna go ahead and start. Now, some of you may be asking, right? Why have a log line prepared in the first place? Okay. Again, this is going to be important for when you meet publishers or when you meet editors, right? So here's this sort of scenario. So you're at an anime convention and you meet a famous editor or just any editor from any publisher. In this scenario, it's someone from Weekly Shonen Jump, right? And you meet them in an elevator and you have less than 30 seconds to tell them what your manga is about, right? So how are you going to do it? You know, like try to, if you have a log line already, maybe try to share any log lines that you've already had made before, or maybe any pitches that you've already come up with before. Feel free to share them in chat. If you guys can manage to share them in chat right now within 30 seconds, then kudos. I'm gonna give you guys a kudos. Mm-hmm. Steve sent one. All right, Allison, that's not quite a log line, Allison, unfortunately. A log line is a bit longer. After all, it's like one sentence. All right. Anyone else? Anyone else? Danny, two familiars want to be the best mages in history. Okay. After boys list strict guys is real. Yeah, okay. So that's more than 30 seconds passed already, and we only had like 3 to 4 people send in their log lines, right? So I'm not sure if you guys, I don't know, made this up on the spot or if you guys already had this ready and you just like whipped it out because you literally have 30 seconds. But yeah, that's how quick it is. That's how quick opportunities can pass you by, especially in these types of scenarios, right? So if you can't manage to catch people's attention within this time limit or within like 30 seconds of meeting them and like trying to get them to um be interested in your manga, then you've already lost it, right? I mean, it again, it depends situation to situation, but it again, this is the most likely scenario, right? This is how much time you have realistically. So if you guys can go back and read the log lines that were sent in chat, for everyone else in chat, would you read any of the mangas that you've read about in chat, just based off their log lines? If anyone is interested, feel free to reply to those log lines and say, I would want to read this, you know. If you are interested in any of the mangas that were shared in chat, just say yes or just reply to them, right? I would want to read this. I would read this. Yeah. Let's 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 give each other feedback. All right. I would read them if they were the genre I was into. They look good though. All right. Who else? Alex would read practically everything. That's good. That's good. Anyone else? Anyone else who'd be interested in any of the other log lines? No? No one else? All right. All right. All right. So some people did say that they would want to read some of the log lines that were shared, but yeah, congratulations. But that's just one person, right? If you can manage to convince an actual publisher or an actual editor to take a chance on your manga, then that's the goal that we're going to try to achieve today, right? So, real quick, were you able to tell your story quickly and clearly? If so, drop the hand emoji in chat. Were you? If you were one of the people who sent their log lines in chat, just raise your hand. All right. No, I wasn't able. Okay, we have a couple of people who were able to send their log lines in chat, but some of them I did notice weren't really log lines. Okay, and some of them could use polishing. All right. So publishers read thousands of stories every day, right? They need a quick way to find the best mangas, the best pitches. These are the ones that can get readers hooked. And that's where a super short and interesting pitch comes in. So that's the point of this exercise today. If you can sum up your story in one sentence, it really helps publishers or editors notice your work. And by the end of this training, you'll learn how to get your manga readers hooked with one sentence. All right. So make sure to watch all the way until the end to learn all about it. Now, today, we'll be learning two main steps to writing a good one sentence pitch, right? First is providing a clear idea of your main plot and central conflict. And second, that's identifying your story's core elements. All right. So this is like, what is the message, the goal? What do you want your readers to think or feel? And what do you want people to take away from your story, right? These are the core elements to a pitch. Now, why should you listen to us in the first place, you guys? Like, why are we here? Why are you even here learning from us today? So, we actually took all of our lessons from our mentors, our pro Japanese mangakas on staff who teach and personally mentor every single one of our students in our program. And everything that we're going to be discussing today is taken from them, directly from them. All right. So we have pro Japanese mangakas Naoyazawa and Renesaya. Naoyazawa is the creator of Wedding Peach. It's an iconic magical girl manga that actually got adapted into an anime back in the 90s. And we also have Renesaya, who is a pro mangaka who's been teaching at a manga school in Tokyo, just like Naoyazawa. And Renesaya has been able to publish her own how to draw manga books and also worked on several publications with Japanese publishers for the past 20 years. All right. They've both won contests, they've both gotten published, and they've both taught beginner students in Tokyo. And yeah, they know what they're doing. They're both professionals, they're both veterans in the Japanese manga industry. And we also have mentors like pro webtoon artist Steph Pastrano. He started out as like a fan artist, just doing fan art, but now he's already a lead artist on an ongoing webtoon and is working on his own doujinshi. And we also have the latest addition to our mentors, pro manga editor Vivi. She's an editor with over 10 years of experience in the industry. And yeah, she's worked with big publishers like Kadokawa, the publisher behind Bungo Stray Dogs and Lucky Star, if you recognize those titles. And she's also worked with publishers like Koamix, who's the publisher behind the silent manga edition. All right. And in the last 3 years, we worked with nearly 400 beginner anime and manga artists. And this is what they had to say after joining our program, right? So we have our student, Charisse, who's made big improvements after just a month since joining our program, right? So before she joined, she knew how to draw, but she never made manga or a comic before, right? Her knowledge of paneling and visual storytelling was limited. And just a month into going through the homeworks and getting coaching and getting mentoring, she's already managed to make several short mangas like yonkomas and 2-page mangas and even 4-page mangas, right? So we've actually interviewed Charisse before on the channel, so maybe you can check that out after this. And other than Charisse, we also have our student Joe, who's actually such huge progress in just a limited amount of time. I mean, this is here on the left, this is his Yonkoma back in January, and the ones on the right, these are his latest Yonkomas from March, right? And since then, he's evolved past Yonkomas and has already started making his multiple page one shots. He's made 4 pagers, he's made 2 pagers already. And this is coming off of a 5 year hiatus from drawing, right? Before joining us back in January, he didn't draw for 5 years. He quit drawing because life got in the way. And when he saw one of our videos, he was inspired to start drawing again, right? And January was the first time he ever started drawing again after 5 years. And then just a couple of months later, he's already made a couple of mangas, you know? So it's huge progress after coming off of such a long hiatus, you guys. And we also have our student Amser, who started as a beginner and learned drawing fundamentals in the program. So he didn't know how to draw before joining. And when he started going through the program back in 2024, he started making storyboards. He started making like rough drafts of his pages, never quite finishing them until this year when he's already this year he's already made like 2 1 shots. He's completed one for the silent manga edition, and he's already working on his second one here on the left, on the right, sorry. This is just a snippet of his second one shot here on the right. Massive progress, you guys. And he's developed his skills so much. He's developed his paneling, his composition, and his perspective drawing skills, as you can see. So massive progress in just a year. And yeah, now we're here to take you to the next level and help you create a manga that you're going to feel proud of. Okay, so you've seen how we've helped our students, and we're super excited to do this free workshop for you guys and also get you to that next level. Okay, so are you guys excited? Just type I'm excited in the chat. Are you guys excited? Because we are finally going to start. I'm going to bring in our coach for today. But before that, we just want to warm up the chat for him. So, are you guys excited for today's workshop? Are you guys excited to start? Let me know. All right. All right, everyone in the Zoom is excited. Everyone on YouTube is excited as well. All right, everyone's excited. So please make sure to stick around if you have a unique story to share, but nothing to show for it after years of work. And if you feel overwhelmed by your long, complicated story and don't know where to start, and you believe it's your life's goal to share your story and are ready to commit to it, and you want to publish your manga, join contests, and eventually work with publishers. All right. If you guys are still here, I just want to say congratulations for sticking it out up to this point. Just drop a clap emoji in the chat. Give yourselves a pat on the back for sticking around up until this point. That means you guys are locked in. You're ready for today's session. And yeah, Kudos to everyone who's still here. All right. So, without further ado, I want you guys to meet your coach for today, Coach Ram. Could you introduce yourself to our audience today?
Hello, everybody. My name is Rem. I am an illustrator and a game module writer. And yeah, I've been working with the team for a couple months now. And yeah, excited to work with you and work with everybody here. Hello. Hello.
All right, Coach. Would you like to take over?
Yeah, let's go. There we go. Can everybody see what I'm presenting? Everything good? All right. All right. There we go. So, you guys joined here to write your log lines, to know how to pitch to your publishers, right? Well, where do we begin? The first thing you need to write your log lines is to know what is the ideation formula? Like, how do you make a log line in the first place, right? So to start off, let's try a basic logline formula, which is what if x plus y? It sounds mathematical, but it's a similar concept that everybody can understand. So for our example on screen, it says here, what if a teenage boy who is a martial arts prodigy? That's the x. And then we add a different element to it. Turned the portion of the formula is the teenage boy turns into a girl when exposed to cold water and turns back into a boy when exposed to hot water. Is anybody familiar with this logline? I'm seeing a couple correct answers in chat. Not quite done, done. Not quite. Yes, yes. It is Ramahambun. Oh, right, right. Okay, all right. Similar thing to a subject verb, right? Now, your what if scenario is going to be your hook or what we like to call a quick pitch. The quick pitch is going to be your fastest way to summarize your story. So how do we proceed with that? Once you've made your what if scenario, your what if x plus y, you can craft your log line around those two ideas. Try to think of an interesting X and then combine that with a Y that subverts what you're expecting from your X, right? Uh, Going back to our example earlier, we see that the X scenario is about a boy, right? What do we expect about a boy? It's he's acting strong, he's acting tough, he's probably like hard-headed, headstrong. How else can we describe him? Yeah, your expectations from the X scenario is going to be those adjectives I gave out. And then think of a Y scenario that twists or subvert your X scenario. So in the case of our example from earlier, this boy who's an expert in martial arts, right? He turns into a girl when he's splashed with cold water. So with that method, you can think or you can create a bunch of different interesting scenarios that are not only subvert the expectations of your audience or your reader or the person you're pitching to, but also hooking their attention. What do we have here? What if a detective tries to cover up his own? Hmm. Okay. Brian says, what if clowns illegally brawl using technology and magic? Hmm. Clowns. Oh, wait. I'm gonna need to think about that. And Danny says, what if a boy who wants to be a hero turns into a mouse randomly, has a newly awakened power but has to fight supernatural? Okay. That's interesting to me, I think. That is a high potential for Danny's uh what if scenario. So why is it interesting? Let's talk about Danny's example. Why is it interesting to me? It's interesting because his X scenario and his Y scenario clash together. Not in a bad way, like they conflict, but it subverts the expectation from the phrase "a boy who wants to be a hero," because his Y scenario is instead of giving him power to be that hero, it kind of like nerfs him or stops him from actually achieving that goal, right? That's what that's what interests me. Let's have another one. Divine says, what if the son of a radical gambler who went through seven kingdoms? Uh, not quite there, I think. The thing that's missing from Divine's what if scenario is anybody could go through seven kingdoms. We're not seeing what's special about your X scenario that is gonna grab out to your reader at the moment. But we're gonna work on that. Alva says, can I deal without the what if scenario? Well, the what if scenario is one of the methods that you can use to make your log line. Let's do one last one. Corlin says, two majorly depressed, broken kids are transported to a world where they have to rewrite reality. Uh-huh. Okay. Hmm. That has high potential, but it needs a little bit of development for a Corlin's what if scenario. So going forward, um, how do we develop this what if scenario, or what else can we do, right? So let's break down what a logline is firstly. What is a logline? A logline is a sentence that sums up what your story is about. It's kind of like the premise, but the premise is different in such a way that the premise tells your reader or the person that you're pitching your story to, it informs them of the promise of conflict, right? What does the promise of conflict mean? The promise of conflict says that you are giving them a scenario that they can think of on what is like the base or the basic summary of your story, while also allowing them some leeway on how to imagine what the events in the story Like, how are they going to play out? Right? There's still some leeway for the reader or the person that's listening to you, some room to imagine, oh, how is this story going to play out? Right? Where is the log line? It specifies the elements of your story and it gives you more details on what the conflict is going to be about. Does that make sense, or is it a little vague at the moment for everybody? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Uh, to go back to the premise is a much more brief description of your story, like a much shorter summary. Where's the log line? It gives you some details that will inform the person that you're telling your log line to. Some details about your story. The premise is not as uh, in depth. Does the conflict need to be mentioned in our log line? Good question. We'll see. Alex says this is adding to that which makes sense to the one shot. Yes, correct. So, what's the key to writing a good log line? The key to writing a good log line is to kiss your homies. Keep it short and simple. Keep it short and simple. Like I said in the previous or in the intro to this broadcast, a logline is a single sentence, right? That's keeping it short. The second part of kiss or kissing in our for our purposes is keeping it simple. How do you or why do you need to keep it simple? It's because your you need the person that you're telling your logline to understand it the first time they hear it, right? If they if they don't understand it the first time they hear it, they will start to ask questions about it, and then your logline will fall apart. They will start breaking down your ideas. If it makes sense, it's sold immediately. Does that make sense? Everybody understand the concept of kissing? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There we go. There we go. All right. All right. Let's go. Let's go forward then. So, what does your log line consist of or must consist of? Number one, your log line should include your main character. Who is our from let me rephrase that. What perspective are we viewing this story from? Who is the person that we're following? Who are we supposed to root for? That's number one. Number two, what are they trying to achieve? What is your main character's goal? By the way, for the purposes of making your log lines, the main character here is your protagonist. Because there's a lot of people who confuse main character versus protagonist. Your main character could be anybody from your main cast, right? The best friend of your protagonist could be a main character. Um, what else? A pet, a close family member or a close friend could be a main character, but there is only one protagonist. There's a person who is at the top of the list of who we are supposed to root for. 825 says, can we have two MCs if we alternate between POVs equally between the two. Technically, you could, but it's gonna take a prodigious writer to accomplish that type of story. Type of story.
Sorry, Coach Rem, to comment on
Hmm.
the question about having two MCs.
Hmm.
What our mentors typically um would advise is avoiding having two protagonists, especially for your
Yes.
first manga, you
Yes.
know,
Hmm.
because trying to develop a single person, your protagonist's arc is
It's already
already gonna
hard.
be yeah, it is already
Yeah.
hard, especially if it's for a one shot, right? That's
Hmm.
already a limited amount of pages, and having a fully developed arc within that limit is good enough for a single character. If you add in another main character with who has his who has his or her own arc, then
Hmm.
you would need like a longer manga, or you would need more experience at least, you know.
Yes. For those who aren't aware of how long a one shot usually goes, a one shot for contest purposes, it's usually between 16 to 24 pages. And for pitching purposes, it's usually 18 to 20. So if you're making a one shot to pitch, make sure it finishes, the entire story finishes in 18 to 20 pages. If you can't get a publisher's attention in the first 4 pages, anyways, how how do you expect uh that the publisher reading your one shot is gonna finish the rest of your pages, right? But that's a different beast, you know. The goal of our broadcast for today is how to get their attention with your log lines. All right, let's go back. After you've decided on a goal that your main character is trying to achieve, think of the conflict. Who or what is standing in their way? What is preventing them from getting to their goal? Could be another character, could be the environment, let's say in an exploration type of story. It could be themselves. It's a like an internal conflict, you know? What else? Could be a hmm, like a god figure or a deity. It's about identifying X versus Y, right? It's about the nature of conflict. There has to be a clash between two opposing forces. I've asked, what do I do for the conflict if the conflict isn't just my MCs, but everybody else as well? Well, that's up to you and how do you want to write your story, but make sure that the MC's goals is being prevented by whoever is opposing them, you know? Does that make sense, for Ava? Make sure that there are clearly or visibly two clashing forces mainly in your one shot. That's how you define your conflict. It's how your reader or the person you're pitching to understands who is involved in the problem of this story. What if the conflict is with themselves and what they were created for, says Alex. Yes, that's also a viable conflict. It's man versus self or character versus themselves. Can a conflict be not antagonist, but the situation they're currently in? Yes, yes, absolutely. An antagonist is essentially the main opposing force that your protagonist is going to be clashing against. It doesn't have to be necessarily a character. Like I said earlier, it can be the forces of nature, it could be a deity, could be themselves, just a force standing in their way. Up next, after you've made your conflict, what are the stakes? What happens if they fail? What is the resolution if your main character does not get what they are trying to achieve? I think that's pretty simple for everybody. So, to sum up, uh, think of your main character, think of their goal, what are they trying to do, what's stopping them from getting to do what they want to do, and what happens if they don't do what they have to do or what they want to do. Is that clear for everybody so far? Everybody following? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. Danny says, is it bad if I do a villain of the week type of plot? For a one shot, it's you could say it as like it's automatically gonna be a villain of the week type thing. It's a one shot. You have to finish your story within a certain number of pages and make sure that it's a satisfying story. But we'll encounter that problem in a future broadcast, I think. What we have to do here is to hook your the person that you're pitching to or your the reader of your logline. For low stakes slice of life, says 825, how important are the stakes? Well, it's still important because your reader still has to get a sense of urgency or a sense of danger or, the sense of losing something, even though it's low stakes. Maybe your slice of life one shot could be as simple as like, oh, what if they fail a bet they made in school? Or what if they didn't or did not make it to the train in time? So it all depends on what type of story you're making. All right, I think everybody understands what our log line must include. Let's go forward. Let's talk about some examples for the hook and the log line. The hook, remember, is your X scenario plus a Y scenario. So for the example on screen, what if, let's go into the X scenario, what if two brothers tried to use forbidden alchemy to bring back their mother back to life? That's our X scenario. And then let's add our Y scenario, which is going to be subverting or adding a different interesting element to the X scenario. In this case, our X scenario is, but instead, they lost parts of their own bodies, which forces them to go on a dangerous quest to find a stone that might restore them. I'm seeing a couple correct answers in chat. Yes, it is Hagane no Renkin Jutsu, Full Metal Alchemist. So that's our what if, and then X scenario plus Y scenario. That's our hook. Everybody clear so far on how the hook for Full Metal Alchemist went? Hmm. All right, I think everybody got the hook. Let's go into the log line for Full Metal Alchemist. The log line for Full Metal Alchemist says that two brothers search for a powerful stone to fix their bodies after a failed attempt to bring their mother back to life. but dangerous enemies and dark secrets stand in their way. Let's go back to the structure of our logline. What do we need? We need our main character, the goal, the conflict, and what's at stake. So let's put our thinking caps on. Let's try to dissect or reverse engineer our logline, right? Uh, Yomoyo just says, is the setting not important? Uh, y- Depends on how you want to structure your log line. If it's that important to getting the context of the story based on just a quick summary, try to include it. If it's not, cut it. If it depends on what what things you want the listener or the reader of your logline to understand. Does that make sense? For Yumayojo? Yes, depends on not exactly the lore, it's how easily you want the listener or reader to understand your logline. So in this slide, we can see that parts of the logline are color coded, and then we can uh, much easily break down the structure of it. So down here, the main character, it's coded in green. It's the two brothers. Like I said a couple minutes back, um, the main character is the characters in the story which we see the story from, or the perspective that we see the story from, how we look into that narrative, right? And for Full Metal Alchemist, we see the story or we enjoy the story from their point of view. We are following these two brothers. All clear so far? Everybody following? Mm-hmm. There we go. There we go. There we go. Let's go to the next one. The blue, the blue coating. What's their goal? What are they trying to achieve? What are they trying to get to? So to the log for the log line of Full Metal Alchemist, the goal in that log line is they have to find a powerful stone that will fix their bodies. It's what they are searching for across the entire arc of the story. All clear? Mm-hmm. Up next, what's the conflict? Who is standing in their way? What is preventing those two brothers from getting to that powerful stone? Right? It's different enemies and dark secrets of this world that they are traversing. Up next, purple. Purple means the stakes. What are the stakes? What's going to happen if they don't get to that goal, right? Steve M says, how vague can you be for the conflict? Um, you just have to give the reader or the listener of your logline to understand what's stopping your main character from getting to their goal. You just have to present a clear clash between two opposing forces. It's X versus Y for crafting your conflict.
And I
Because
think,
conflict makes your story interesting. Sorry, Candice, go ahead.
yeah, sorry. I think what Steve is asking is like,
Mhm.
how detailed can we be when defining like the conflict, right? So I
Mhm.
think one of the mentors did bring up a good point is clear enough that anyone could understand it. So,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
example, if you say enemies and dark secrets, it's a universal term. Enemies, anyone knows what an enemy is, anyone can identify what a dark secret is, right? But if you were to make that even more detailed and say it's like, let's say you include the name of the enemy that you already had in mind. Like, let's say, for example, like a random name for an enemy
Mhm.
or for an antagonist. No one's gonna get it. So you could use like definers or
Or general
descriptors.
terms.
Yeah,
Yeah.
descriptors like any or like a dark wizard
Mhm.
or an alchemist or something like that. So general descriptors, nothing too detailed like names, you know. Yeah, nouns.
Mhm. Not just as my MC doesn't have stakes. Is that okay? Huh. Let me. I mean, a story has to have stakes, right? Like, what happens if your main character doesn't get to do what they want to do? Because the stakes is gonna come from your conflict, and conflict gives stories interest. If think of it this way, if your story doesn't have a conflict, it won't have interest. And if your story doesn't have anything interesting, who's gonna read it? If they just do what they want to do, think of a factor or a force. Could be a character, could be anything, could be the world stopping them, and that's preventing them from getting to do what they do. And then that's how you make the conflict. And from the conflict, that's how you make the stakes. How do you
I just
create stakes? Sorry, Candice,
sorry.
go ahead.
I just wanted to add to that
Hmm.
because there is no story worth telling if there's no conflict. You know, I think what people often misunderstand about creating conflict is they feel like conflict needs to be like life altering or
Yeah, yeah.
life threatening. You know,
Mhm.
no, it
It
doesn't
doesn't
have
have
to
to be
get
like,
to that point. Yeah, it doesn't
yeah.
have to get to that point. Conflict is anything that presents a challenge to your protagonist, any
Hmm.
sort of challenge. This doesn't have to be a life-threatening challenge. It could be like an inner struggle, or it could just be like an everyday challenge. You know, I'm late to work, and because I'm late like every day, it's threatening my job prospects or whatever. Any sort of conflict that challenges your protagonists and forces them, or at least
Hmm.
encourages them to develop throughout your story, that's really the point of the conflict. So you can't really say that there's no stakes or there's no conflict because then that means that your protagonist is just the same from start to finish. No
Hmm.
development whatsoever. So you need to have that conflict if you want them to actually change throughout your story because that is the point. You want them to change. You want them to develop.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Danny says, smiling friends is just making someone smile, and their stakes is just failing. Yeah. What if they don't make someone smile, right? They fail. That's what happens. So, any more questions on the stakes or conflict? Alva says, what if I don't put the stakes in the log line, but the stakes are relatively easy to determine by listeners? I mean, if that's the case, then the stakes are still in your log line. It's just implied. It's still there. Can instincts be a conflict? By instincts, what does it mean? I mean, in a way, it could be. It could be. It could be like a compulsion that's preventing your main character from doing stuff normally, right? Yeah, Zhao is presenting a wonderful or high potential scenario here. Like, let's say you have a slice of life story and we're following your main character who is just, attending school or trying to get to work or I don't know, uh, like what normal people do. And what if they're a werewolf, right? What if in some days or on full moons they have to drop whatever they're doing and just do werewolf stuff? That's a conflict because that there's a conflict between the idea of, oh, I have to do normal people stuff versus on these days I have to do werewolf stuff, right? There's a conflict between wants. Does that make sense? Is that clear? There we go. There we go. How do I create stakes, says Emmanuel. Creating stakes comes from your main character and your goal, right? Like your main character and how they work towards their goal. There has to be a repercussion if they don't get to their goal, right? That's your stakes. Like for a simple slice of life story. What happens if they don't get to school um in time, right? The stakes is they will fail the exam. They will flunk out of their class. That's what's at stake. Jeffrey says, what are good ways to make stakes being people to the main character, like the main cast? Um, well, like I said, um, to bring people to the main character to make stakes. Hmm. Well, like I said, it has to come from your main character and your goal. I mean, try to put yourself in, try to make a log line for what your life is, right? Let's say you're the main character, your goal is, I don't know, uh, attending this broadcast, right? What's the conflict? Oh, maybe I slept too late. That's what's stopping you from attending this broadcast. And what's at stake? If I don't get to attend this broadcast, I wouldn't be able to understand how to make a log line. There we go. Those are your four elements of the log line. Your main character is you. Your goal is to attend this training. The conflict is, oh, you slept pretty late. You might oversleep. What's at stake is if you don't get to attend this broadcast, I won't get to understand how to make a log line. There we go. Those are your four elements. Yeah. Multitude of questions coming in right now. Hmm. I guess let's do one more question and then let's proceed. Uh-huh. Okay. What Corlin says, what if you purposely try to make the logline kind of typical, like your typical adventure and action plot, but if you explore deeper, then readers will see the uniqueness in the story. That's completely fine. The goal of making your logline, like we've discussed in the beginning, is to get somebody's attention, or if you're pitching your idea, get the publisher's interest in your story. And then Once they're hooked into your story, that's how you develop your story in, like, uh, how you make your narrative. It would depend on your writing afterwards. So your logline is gonna get them hooked, and your writing is what is going to get them invested. All clear? For Corlin, does that answer your question? All right, let's proceed then. So, like we mentioned, even simple stories like non-action or non-fantasy stories could benefit from having a log line. Like let's say in this case, the log line is in a seemingly normal town. Three high school girls deal with super weird and funny things every day, like talking cats, a robot classmate, and crazy adventures that make their lives anything but normal. Again, let's go back to the elements of our logline. The main character is three high school girls. The goal is these three high school girls, they just want to live their daily lives as normally as possible. They're just trying to do what they have to do as high schoolers, right? Despite all of the weirdness around them. The conflict is strange, unpredictable things that keep happening. Talking cats, a robot classmate, bizarre adventures, you know? And what's at stake if they don't get to do what they want to do, which is living their normal lives. If they fail to manage the chaos of their lives, it will be filled with nonstop craziness, making it impossible to have a typical normal high school girl's life or experience, or even stay sane for that matter. How do you narrow down your conflict, says Veronica. You have to condense it in the simplest way possible. Like Candace and I mentioned, use descriptors or simple words that will describe what's stopping your main character from getting to their goal. All clear for a non-action or non-fantasy loglines? All right. Okay. There we go. So, to move forward, keep an open mind when you're thinking of ideas for loglines or for anything actually. Making your concepts. How do you make your main characters? How do you write your conflict? What do they want to do? What's their goal? Or what's at stake? Don't just stick to the first thing that pops up in your mind. Try to explore different angles. Like step back. If you have an idea, step back, look at it from a different way. Maybe get input from a friend, a family, a mentor, teachers, or post it somewhere. Just get feedback, and that way you could see your idea in a different light. And then based on that feedback, try to make a different version of your idea or your logline. It's about exploring options. What if you don't have many feedback? Well, you have to learn how to step away from your idea and instead of approaching it from a creator uh perspective, approach it from a critic's mindset. Like try to poke holes in your own idea. That way you can get feedback from yourself for free. How do I stick to one idea? That's a hard question. Because if you're not convinced with your own idea, it's gonna be hard to pitch it to a different person, right? You're having difficulty even convincing yourself about your own idea, right? So how do you stick it? Develop it, uh, critique it.
And I think, sorry, to add to that, I
Mhm,
think a marker of a good idea is if the creator, you, is genuinely invested in it and you
mhm,
want to learn more, right? Because when you're first coming up with an ideas for a story, right? Even at first, even you don't know what's going to happen, right? Because you're still just coming up with it.
yeah.
So if you're coming up with an idea and you're like hashing it out for the first time, and as you're going through that process, as you're coming up with that idea, if at some point you feel like, oh, I want to know how this ends. I genuinely want to know how this ends, then that's a good start already. So
Mhm,
if you already feel invested right from the get-go and you want to see what happens,
mhm.
then that's already a good start.
Yeah, you're already invested.
Yeah.
You're convinced that it's gonna go somewhere. All clear so far? Any anything that is unclear from how we make log lines at this point? Okay. It is. Stepping away from your own ideas is a little hard. Yes, that's true. Okay. Let's move on then. So, let's get everybody's feedback on this. Let's say you're the publisher. Let's say you're critiquing log lines. Let's compare these two log lines with each other, right? So the first one, two brothers search for a powerful stone to fix their bodies after a failed attempt to bring their mother back to life, but dangerous enemies and dark secrets stand in their way. That's the first log line. And the second one, let's try to compare it. Two young alchemists fight dangerous enemies and uncover secret plots as they search for a powerful stone to restore their lost bodies. Those are the two log lines that this unnamed author is presenting to us as publishers or critics, right? So what are you seeing from logline number one and logline number two? What's good about it? What's missing? What's confusing about it? Or other stuff that you find that sticks out to you or you find interesting? Have a few couple good answers already. Good job, everybody. Well done. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. So, here we go. Danny says their comment for the first log line is a little bit better. because it gives a little bit more detail. It explains or summarizes the story in a much better way. That's good. That's good. Um, Zhao says, I feel they feel like the second one has too many things happening. Yes. The second one has a lot more specific terms that if you're not familiar with it, it's not going to make sense. And this log line falls apart because you have to question it. You have to ask further questions to understand what this second log line is talking about. Like, who are these alchemists, right? What are alchemists in the first place? If your listener is not familiar with the concept of alchemy. A says the first log line is rather simple and keeps things interesting right off the bat. Correct. Remember, kiss. Kiss your log lines. Keep it short and simple. So you see how the different things that we discussed earlier are coming together in this portion of our broadcast today. So number one, it's keeping it short and simple. Kiss. And then we learned about the elements of the log lines, which is the main character, the goal, the conflict, and what's at stake. And earlier we discussed the hook. Your what if, and then your X scenario plus your Y scenario. Yes, Leo, yes. Keep it simple and short. All right, let's go. How about this one? Again, the first one we discussed, and let's compare it to this new log line. After a tragic accident leaves them broken, two brothers risk everything to find a powerful stone, but the truth behind it may cost them even more. What are your thoughts if you're somebody who's listening to an author pitching these log lines to you? Cool. Yomoyo just says it feels too vague and mysterious. Yes, it's mysterious, which is good. It gets a listener's interest, but it's too vague. It Your listener or the reader of your log line of this log line is gonna ask questions, right? Like what's the truth behind it? Or what is this tragic accident? It's a very specific portion of the story that does not explain or does not summarize it in a good way. The second one is much more structured towards being a premise rather than a log line. So if you remember, the premise is the promise of conflict. Like you're thinking, how is this story gonna pan out? Right? Whereas the log line, it gives you the four elements of what you need to understand for you to get what the summary of the story is.
You
Yes,
guys,
Steve M says more questions than answers. Yes,
yeah.
yes, correct.
You guys, I also want to bring up there is no right or wrong answer. Okay, this is
Mhm.
all subjective.
Yeah.
I think what you guys also need to understand is you must be able to modify your pitch
Mhm.
according to the situation. We actually had a discussion with pro mangaka Gigi Murakami like last month, and Gigi has had their one shot published in Viz Media. They had to pitch their manga story to Viz, and they've also had to pitch it to publishers before Viz, right? So she's been workshopping her pitch for a long time before it managed to get to Viz. So what she suggested is to have different versions of your pitch, different versions of your logline, depending on who your audience is, right? So, also depending on
Mhm.
how much time you have. So, let's say, for example, you're at a convention and you meet someone who is interested in your story, but it seems like they're rushing. Or if you feel like your impression is that, oh, they seem bored, oh, they seem like they're rushing, then you go with a pitch that's quicker and more intriguing like the
Mhm.
second one, because it's leaving a lot of questions unanswered, but it the good of the second one is that it's intriguing, you know?
Yeah,
So if
yeah.
you want to grab someone's attentions fast, then you can try the second one. But
Mhm.
if you have more time and it seems like the editor or the publisher seems to be more focused on you and more invested in you as a creator and wants to know even more, then you can divulge more details in your pitch you know so
Mhm.
that is how you can prepare for different types of situations. I mean, just having one version of your pitch or your log line isn't really ideal when you're trying to workshop it with multiple publishers you know so it's good to have at least two versions of your logline or your pitch ready, depending on the situation and who you're dealing with. At least that's what Gigi recommends beginners to do when they're first starting out.
Right, right, right. And as we talked about earlier, uh, don't be try to not be as invested on the first thing that comes up into your mind. Like, oh, I made a log line. This is what I'm gonna pitch to everybody. No, you should step back and depending on the situation or what the needs that you are seeing, change your log line according to what you think your listener is looking for. Because the goal is getting them interested, or in if you're talking to a publisher, is getting them to get you on board into their publishing roster. All right. Is that clear? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There we go. There we go. Finally, the main goal of making your logline is why should people care? Like, why why should I be interested? Or what what could get my interest in your story? Like if I see your logline, why should I care? Why should I read? Or why should I listen to the further details of your pitch, right? It's the main goal. Getting their interest, getting them invested, seeing you as a potential uh author or a publishing roster. Like let's say you're pitching for a magazine, what gets your publisher interested in onboarding you into getting you to work for them, essentially. Sound good? Is that clear for everybody? Yeah, yes, yes. Okay. Awesome. Mhm. To expand on that, um, what do they truly want to achieve or overcome in terms of your main character, in terms of what the conflict is, what or who is standing in their way? That's the conflict. And what will happen if they fail to meet that goal? That's what's at stake. Again, your log lines must fulfill these questions. Everybody following so far? 825 says, "What? How does the log line change from demographic to demographic in terms of focus?" Um, from demographic, you mean like an age demographic or from a target audience uh perspective? For a target audiences or a target age demographic, it's not really gonna change. It all depends on what you see the publisher is looking for. Like what Candace mentioned, if somebody's rushing or somebody doesn't really have that much time for you to explain, you might need to shorten your log line or be a little bit more vague, just so they get ideas or you get their interest. They start to wonder what happens in the story that you're pitching. Should we work on the logline first or work on story details first and then logline second? Says Steve M. Um, that depends. That depends. Uh, if you have your logline first, the bulk of the work is gonna come afterwards, right? Because you have an idea, but then you will still have to back that idea if your logline does work, right? You still have to work on the rest of the story. The second approach is front loading the effort, right? Doing the hard part first. You have your story already done, and then you craft your logline afterwards, which is comparatively, it's a whole lot less effort. Does that make sense, Steve? Does that answer your question? So it all depends on your approach, is what I'm trying to get across. Okay, thank you, thank you, thank you for your question. Alvin says, oh, what would happen if you have a log line first, then do a character design? Well, that's the same question that Steve posted. It's about what or which portion of the work you want to do first. Is it the big uh tough section of creating a manga first? Like your character design, your story, your structure? Or is it the short portion of the work first, like making your log line or your pitch first? It's going to vary on what approach you find comfort in. If there's no more questions, let's move forward. So, this is our training activity for today, right? This time, we are going to be listening or reading your log lines. Everybody up for it? Please post a raising hand emoji if you're up for the challenge. There we go, there we go, there we go. Okay, okay. All right, I think everybody is on board with our activity. So we can, or we are trying to make three different versions of the logline that's for your story or for an idea that you are working on or you're trying to pitch or just trying to put out there, just trying to get people's attention. Again, the four elements, keep that in mind: the main character, the goal, the conflict, the stakes, what happens if they fail, that sort of thing.
All right. Can we set a timer for our students today, you guys, just so we can limit the amount of time we're going to give them to work on this? So, yeah, when you submit your log line, you guys submit all three versions. All right, in one. Please don't submit them in different messages. Submit them in one message in the Zoom chat once you're done.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah.
So probably the best way we could do this is label them as your first version, second version, and third version. Is that cool? So get your pens if you're writing down or just anything that you can type on, get it ready, and let's give it a go. All right. All right. A lot of interesting ideas being posted. Do we have any entries from the YouTube chat?
And we're just going to be reviewing people in Zoom,
Okay,
coach.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Mhm. Okay.
All right, the time is up, you guys. Please make sure to send in your submissions before we choose. All right, we're going to be choosing three people to
Mhm.
review today. So please make sure everyone has already sent in their log lines before we proceed. All right. So Coach Rem is going to start choosing now while we wait for Coach Rem to choose the submissions. You guys, how was it? Just drop first impressions. How was it making
Mhm.
your log lines? Some people in chat are saying that it was hard. It was stressful. It
Mhm.
was horrible. Oh my goodness. Scary but nice, hard. I was rushing a bit. Tough. All right. It was good, honestly. I definitely learned a bit more on how to make one more defined. Yes. I'm glad to hear that, Jeffrey. Who else? Any other impressions? Let's see. How did everyone make three? I was only able to make one. Oh my goodness. All right. All right. All right. Seeing a lot of people. Some people were rushing, some people were struggling,
Mhm.
others at least seemed like they had fun and had a good time just coming up with stuff. So that's
Mhm.
good. Now, Coach Rem, do you want to proceed with reviewing the first one that you chose?
Yeah, yeah, let's go. Let's go. Let's get right into it. Some people forgot to kiss. That's fine. We'll see how forgetting to kiss affects your log lines. Shall we? Let's go. So this one is from Sahel. Am I pronouncing that correctly? If you're here, yes. Okay, gotcha. So, let's go over these submissions one by one. First version is he says a young man whose girlfriend gets killed by cartels swear to take revenge, but find out the cartels have powers through demon packs. That's the first one. Second one, a young man seeks revenge for his murdered girlfriend against his enemies who have demon powers through a demon pact. All right. Second one. Third one, young man struggles to take revenge for his murdered girlfriend against his girlfriend's murderer who has powers through demon packs. Okay. Okay. The first one, we kind of want to avoid because the way you've written the first one, uh, it sounds a little bit more passive. Like the portion where the girlfriend gets killed by the cartels. It's written in a passive manner. Uh, the passive manner is in it. I am informed of it being written in a passive manner by the line gets killed, right? So try to avoid that. Make it so that your protagonist or your antagonist is active. They have an active role in your logline, right? That's the main critique for the first one. Second one is a lot stronger. A young man seeks revenge for his murdered girlfriend against his enemies who have demon powers through a demon pact. Okay, that's a lot stronger. It's much more concise. I think here it you kind of lose like the context of who murdered uh this young man's girlfriend, right? But uh as is, it's a nice enough log line. The third version, young man struggles to take revenge for his murdered girlfriend against his girlfriend's murderer who have powers through demon packs. It's the third one is worded a little bit sloppily because it's a lot of repetition. But the third one is the most complete in terms of the four elements, right? There's your main character. What are they trying to do? Sorry, let's go back. The main character is the young man. What they're trying to do is they're trying to take revenge against his girlfriend's murderer. What's the conflict? The girlfriend murderer who have powers through demon packs. And the interesting part about this third one is the stakes is not written, it's implied. It's it's asking it's asking the reader or the listener to visualize or imagine what happens if the young man doesn't get to fulfill his um, ploy of revenge or plot of revenge against this murderer. So all in all, the third one is the most complete, although it's a little bit uh weirdly written. And the second one is it's lacking some of the elements. It doesn't have the stakes, right? Or the stakes is much more vague in the second one. So for Sahel, my suggestion would be combine log lines number two and number three, and then with the fusion of those two, you get the best log line out of the three you presented. Sahel, any questions? Any anything you want to clear up? If you're still here, hmm, let me
Hmm.
check.
It seems Sahel is here, but it seems that they don't like they wouldn't
Might
like to
be
speak,
AFK or something.
perhaps. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm. All right. Uh, there they are. Any questions from my comments, Sahel? The main thing I wanna get to you is combine your second and third log lines, and with that, it's a much more concrete, complete log line. That cool? That clear? All right. Sahel says, I understand the critique. Thanks for the feedback. Oh, okay. No problem. Always welcome. And with that, let's move on to the second one, shall we? The second submission. This one is from Danny. And first one that we are going to go through is a boy born of great heroes gets his powers, but he gets a weak power and now has to fight supernatural enemies. Question for Danny. By a boy born of great heroes, does that mean his parents are great heroes? Is that correct? Am I understanding the context correctly? His dad's sides are okay, so he's descended from a line of heroes. Okay, all right. Second one, a kid wants to become a great hero, but he has the power to turn into a mouse. Now he has to fight all types of enemies, ranging from vampires to demons. Okay. Third one is a boy gets blessed with powers, but it's the power to turn into a mouse. He now has to fight supernatural enemies to protect his friends. All right. Hmm. The best one I feel is the third one. It's the most complete. It answers the questions about the four elements, like who's your main character, what are they trying to do, what's at stake, what's or what happens if they lose, right? The third one, the main criticism that I am feeling or thinking about it is spent quite a lot of space or wording towards the description of the boy. I'd suggest like trimming it down or condensing it into something like a boy gets blessed with the powers of turning into a mouse, something like that. Or a boy gets blessed with shape shifting powers. A boy
I
gets
th
let's oh, sorry, go ahead,
Yeah,
Candice.
sorry. The I think I know what he was trying to do here. He was trying to like subvert the idea, what first setting up the idea that a boy is blessed with powers, but
Yes.
it's
Yes.
just to turn into a mouse, sorry. So I think Coach Rem offered a good idea of condensing this even further. A boy, instead of using the term blessed, You could use something like a boy. What would be the opposite of blessed? If the idea is that, oh,
Cursed.
cursed or something,
Well,
perhaps
cursed
something like
cursed
that.
might be it changes the context, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
from the way I understood Danny's idea, the
Mm.
boy is supposed to get powers because he's descended from a line of heroes, right?
Yeah.
But then it turns out this power is like almost a downside,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Hmm.
So you could frame it that way just to really bring like the negative aspect or the across, you know.
And then so yeah, that's the main character. That's the main character. The missing here, very important, is what is this boy trying to do? Which is, you know, protect his protect his friends and family. And like Sahel's submission, the stakes here is also implied. It's not written in the log line. So that's why I mentioned it might be missing a couple or one thing, right? The stakes here is if he doesn't protect his family, these supernatural enemies will hurt them, right? So for a more complete logline, uh, I'd suggest fleshing out the stakes, and yeah, that will make this third version a much stronger logline. So, to summarize, um, reword the description of your main character so it doesn't take half of your logline, and to make it more understandable to someone who has more time to listen to you, flesh out the stakes. And that's a stronger logline than what is currently in front of us for number or version 3. Uh, is that understandable to Danny? Is that clear? Any uh, any questions, any comments? All right, there we go. Thank you. Thank you for submitting, by the way. And with that, let's move on to our final pick. This one is from A25. Oh, sorry. Whoops. A25's first version says a young girl travels back in time to prevent her best friend from becoming friends with her in order to prevent the end of the world. But somehow fate always forces them together. Second one is in a world where her relationship with her best friend is the catalyst for the end of the world, a young girl must travel back in time to prevent a friendship that somehow occurs in every timeline. Third one is a young girl discovers she befriends her closest friend in every timeline, but this friendship will lead to the end of the world if she didn't prevent it at least. All right. High potential uh
Sorry,
idea.
Coach Rem. Before you get into it, I just
Mhm.
want to comment. This is reminding me of a game. I'm not sure if anyone's heard of it, like Life is Strange. So,
Oh, the first one.
yeah, the first one. This is
Uh-huh.
reminding me of that for a bit. Oh,
Right.
so, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I see it. I see it. I see the vision. Okay. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of these submissions. Okay. The first two, I want to say it's structured more as a premise rather than a log line. So why I said that is it gives me an idea of what the story is, and the first two, sorry, if whoever that might be, if you don't mind, please mute in the meantime. Thank you. There we go. Sorry. To go back. These first two, it's a much more it's a much more vague description of how the story is gonna go, and it gives me a lot more leeway on how to imagine how it's gonna pan out. The story's actual events, right? But what's missing from the first two that doesn't qualify them as log lines is it lacks the four elements, right? I see the main character. I see the conflict, but I don't see their goal or what's at stake, right? So in the first two, let's break it down. Who is our main character? It's the young girl who can travel back in time. I assume so. I assume so. Secondly, what are they trying to do? What's what's uh what's their goal? They're trying for the first one, they're trying to prevent her best friend from becoming friends with her. Okay. That's there's the conflict in the first one. Conflict in the second one, or the goal in the second one is they're trying to prevent the friendship. That's what they want to do. What's the conflict in the first one? It's the to prevent the end of the world. That's not the conflict, that's the stake. That's what happens if she doesn't prevent her best friend from becoming friends with her. I guess here in the first one, the conflict is heavily implied, if that makes sense. So why it's heavily implied is the young girl is trying to prevent her best friend from becoming friends with her. It's the conflict between the girl and her friendship with this other person, right? It's not in the text. It's buried in what the text means, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? Is that clear, or um anything you guys want me to further elaborate? I think there's no question so far. Second one, let's break it down. Again, young girl, main character. What they have to do is they must travel back in time. That's good. What's the conflict? Again, the conflict is heavily implied. It's the girl versus her somehow fated friendship. It's like they're always destined to be friends, and then the girl must is gonna feel um it's gonna be like the girl versus her own feelings towards her fated or
Yeah.
destined best friend, right?
Yeah. I think the conflict here, like what you said, it's implied
Mhm.
that it's implied that she doesn't want to end her friendship with her
Yeah,
best
yeah,
friend.
yeah.
That's implied, but it's not explicitly stated.
Mhm.
So what's implied here is the struggle that she must go through to break off her relationship with her
Yeah,
best
or to
friend.
stop that from happening.
Yeah.
And then what's at stake? The catalyst is um, the friendship between the young girl and her best friend is the catalyst for preventing the end of the world. The main comment I want to give to the second one is the way you wrote your sentence is it puts your main character in the middle. So what you want to do is to introduce your main character immediately at the beginning of your logline sentence. Similar to the structure of your third one. A young girl discovers that she befriends her closest friend in every timeline, but this friendship will lead to the end of the world if she didn't prevent it at least. Again, there is a heavy implication or implying of the conflict versus the rest of the elements that are immediately visible in the text. To sum up, I think the second one is the strongest if you restructure it in a way where you mention your main character first, the conflict first, the conflict second, or the goals, or the conflict or the goal in the middle, and then the stakes at the end. Does that make sense? 825. Like mention the character that we're gonna be following in the story, and then put the goal and the conflict since they're related to each other in the middle. And what is the repercussions if the conflict stops your main character from getting to their goal at the end? Is that clear? That clear? Does that make sense? Any questions? Anything you want me to explain further? 825. All right. Okay. I think that's it for our three selections, Candace.
All right.
Mhm.
Real quick, you guys, want to ask what are your insights, anything you've learned so far from our session today. Like, what did you struggle with? What did you enjoy most? Feel free to send them in chat. We want to talk about it with you guys while we're still here before we end. Let's see if we can like learn from each other. Anything, any key takeaways that you feel like
Mhm.
you're going to be taking away with you after this workshop? Just share them in chat. We'd love to know.
Mhm. What did you find difficult about writing your logline? Or conversely, what did you enjoy about writing it?
Okay, Leo says I learn about adding stakes. All right, Alex, could it make it short? Jeffrey, I struggled creating more of an original idea, but I enjoyed getting brand new, unique ideas. That's good, Jeffrey.
Mhm.
Danny, making it simple was fun to do. That's great. Brian, really good to know that you shouldn't put proper nouns into the log line. That was hard for me to avoid adding. Yes. Proper nouns that at least aren't easily as identifiable upon first listen. So, as much as possible, using proper pronouns um is going to be difficult, especially if it's like a proper pronoun from, like, let's say like a certain brand or a certain culture or a specific name that anyone couldn't easily identify. That's not good to put in your log line. So I'm glad that you managed to take that away from the session. um who else? Condensing it was hard. That's why I forgot my stakes. Right, right. When you're trying to condense a story down into a single sentence, that a lot of you have to you some details get lost. Trying to make it as concise and simple as possible. I totally get that, but that is
Yeah,
part of the process, you know?
yeah.
Yeah. All right. Nothing I write feels serious. Okay. What what do you mean, Yomo Yojo? What do you mean like nothing I write feels serious? It doesn't feel serious to you in a sense that you don't feel like this could go any further, or you don't see it spanning into like a fully fleshed out manga. What do you mean by nothing you write feels serious? Feel free to like expound on that in chat.
Hmm.
Um who else? Adding stakes was a little difficult. All right. I learned how to refine my logline. That's good. I have to keep working on my logline, but I learned a lot. That's nice. Thank you, Enric.
Hmm.
Um, if there are more characters connected to the story, how could you condense it if possible for the logline? All right, Steve. So let's say for the purposes of this question, you're making a logline for a one shot. And let's say everyone in the session today is a beginner who's never made a manga before. Okay. Within that context, your first project for your first ever manga should, of course, be a one shot, a simple, short one shot that should end, that should begin and end within a limited amount of pages. And typically, like a one shot is like 16 to 30 or 16 to 24 pages, right? So when you're creating a log line for that, you have to understand that you can't have a a lot of characters in your one shot. You have your protagonist, that's your one protagonist, and you can have like a couple, two or three, or maybe even four, like supporting characters that don't that have varying degrees of relevance to the plot or relevance to the protagonist. It really depends. So, for let's say for a one shot, you can afford at the very maximum just two main characters. One, your protagonist that goes through like a full arc, and like a second character that has a bit more stakes in the plot and has a bit more stakes with your character, if you know what I mean. So having, if it's fine if you can like mention one or two characters in your log line if that's the case, but at the end of the day, your one shot should focus on your protagonist, you know. So, but when you're already thinking about a series, let's say for example, you've already made your first manga, you've already made a couple of one shots. When you're thinking about a series, then you can start to, okay, think about like multiple characters and like integrating them in your log line. But that would be an entirely different discussion already, because there's a lot more details that you would have to add if you want to, if you still want to make your log line as clear as possible. All right. Who else? How would you make a logline for a long-running series such as One Piece? That's the thing. One Piece has evolved so much, just plot-wise. I would say you would make a lot. There's a logline for every arc of One Piece. There's a
Hmm.
logline for
Yes.
Romance Dawn. There's a logline for the East Blue arc. There's a
Mm.
logline for the Wano arc, you know? So for every like season of One Piece, every arc of One Piece has its own logline. That's why it's hard to make like an overarching logline for just the entirety of One Piece at this point, because there's so many conflicts already, so many conflicts, so many stakes that One Piece has gone through. So it wouldn't be fair to just condense it into one single log line for One Piece.
Mhm.
Yeah. Honestly, I want a story not as long as One Piece, but really defined and fleshed out. Yes, that is the goal.
I mean, we could try to make a log line for One Piece like right now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
I
Let's
mean, One
do.
Piece, like
Mm.
perhaps like early One Piece. I don't know. I
Sorry?
mean, perhaps early One Piece,
Yeah,
or just like the first half of One
maybe the
Piece.
one
But
shot for One Piece.
yeah, the one shot. Yeah.
Mhm.
So if you guys can like before we like try to give our version of like a log line for One Piece, maybe you guys could offer your like suggestions. What would a log line for One Piece look like? Like you can send in like your your versions in chat. If we're talking like basic like details of One Piece. I think we can manage to condense it into like one sentence for sure. A teen with the power of rubber assembles a crew to find a great treasure. A teen. A teen who? You're missing a key characteristic there. Pirates. Ah. Because I think a teen with the power of rubber assembles a crew to find a great treasure. It's a bit too vague. And you have to remember that this crew is a crew of pirates, and this is set in like a world of pirates. So, a rubber bodied teen pirate gathers a crew to set sail to find the world's most renowned treasure. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Solid.
Mhm.
I mean, I think the main thing that this is missing, a rubber-bodied teen pirate gathers a crew to set sail and find the world's most renowned treasure. You're missing the conflict here. So I think it would be fair to add, but they face, but you have to mention that everyone else in the world is also looking for this treasure. Every
Yes.
single pirate
It,
alive is also looking for this treasure. So
mhm.
that's the conflict. And also, I think you could also mention the stakes because the stakes here is the person who finds the One Piece, the person who finds the most world-renowned treasure, becomes the king of the pirates. So that's the stakes. I think that's also you need to mention that as well. All right. So I think we can move on from
Mhm.
that, you guys. All right. If everyone is clear, yeah, making a log line for a series, um, I think is a bit more complicated. I don't know. It really depends. At least for One Piece, we did manage to like make a log line for it, but it's not really enough to describe what One Piece is at the moment, right now, as it currently is. So if you were, if again, if this is your first time like making a manga,
Mhm.
you have to make sure that you're making a one shot. So I highly recommend focusing on creating a shorter story rather than a series
Right.
because you are going to struggle, especially if it's your first time.
Mhm.
All right. So I think I can take over now, Coach Rem. Real quick, you guys, if you guys have any more questions, then again, we are going to be taking questions from the audience right after this. So please stay tuned. Real quick. So, if you guys have any questions, feel free to send them in the chat now because I am gonna be picking out two or three questions that we're going to entertain during the Q&A at the end because we only have like a few minutes left of our time today. So hopefully you guys enjoyed our session. But for now, that's pretty much it for our workshop today. Remember these tips. Keep it short and simple for when you're
Mhm.
making your logline. highlight the character, the goal, the conflict, and the stakes.
Mistakes. Yes.
And of course, explore different angles, try different versions of your logline,
Hmm.
and test your logline or loglines with others. Test it with your friends, test it with your family, test it with random strangers online. There's so many forums, there's so many Discord servers of like aspiring mangakas who want to make their manga and are trying to like workshop their stories. Through different communities, you know? So that's one way. If you feel like you lack feedback or you're missing feedback, and if you want more varied feedback from different types of people, different types of audiences, then there's the internet, you know? And yeah, with that said, that is how you hook readers with one sentence, you guys. Please make sure to stay until the end for the Q&A. Please stay muted until the Q&A. We will be taking your questions at the end, so please take this moment to relax, take a sip of water if you're if you're stressed or if you're feeling stressed and overworked, I don't know,
Hmm.
from the session today, feel free to relax before and prepare your questions for the Q&A. So now that you know what a logline is and how to make one, let me ask you this, you guys. Do you have an awesome story idea, but you can't figure out how to make it work? And do you feel like your drawings don't really show how cool your story is? Or do you dream of making a one shot but feel stuck and unsure how to do it? If this is you, just type yes in the chat if you relate to any of these. Yeah. Do you are you in the process of making a manga or have you never finished any of the ideas that you've worked on so far? Because if that's so, if you've answered yes to any of these questions, then we're inviting you to apply to our one-shot manga drawing program. We've been working with pro Japanese mangaka mentors, and they've been teaching our students how to make manga and how to make a manga that they can compete with in manga contests and perhaps show to publishers at portfolio reviews. And just like our students, you'll learn everything from manga drawing basics to crafting a full one-shot manga from start to finish. And here's what some of our students had to say, right? So I just want to brag about our students a bit. So we have Takari. Now, Takari has improved so much in just a year. Like, this is her first SMA submission, I believe, here on the left. That was back in 2024. And now in 2025, she's already made multiple one-shots. She's made 4-page one-shots, 2-page, and she's working on another multi-page one-shot. And her composition has improved so much. Her scenes are more dynamic. She's using better storytelling techniques, you know, and this is what she had to say. I looked over my previous SMA submissions that I finished before joining this course and comparing my pages with my recent manga. It's very clear that I learned a lot. And last year I didn't know what screen tone is, how to do paneling, didn't know much about perspective and anatomy, and I struggled literally with everything. It was a pain. And this time I already knew what I needed to do. I had a refined process and it was much easier, especially with the help of coaches. And we also have our another student, Courtney. Courtney back in 2024 knew how to draw, but never made manga before. And now she's already finished her first one shot, right? She wanted to learn more about just visual storytelling techniques and how to tell a story through manga, right? Because she'd been a fan of manga for so long. So this is what she had to say about her experience in the course. I like the sense of community and friendliness this group has fostered among itself and its members. My favorite part of being in this program is the privilege of getting critiques from mangaka instructors who have firsthand experience in this field, and being able to converse with them and have them critique my work has given me a better understanding of what I should and shouldn't do. So yeah, massive progress.
Hmm.
Courtney's style has developed so much in just a year, and I don't know, that could be you, you know. And we
Courtney,
also have, yeah,
sorry.
go
To
ahead.
add to Courtney's stuff, she just finished a second one shot a couple days ago, by the way.
Ooh, wow.
Mhm.
See, so you guys, Courtney's already made a second one shot. This is the one on screen is her first one shot, actually first
Yes.
finished one shot that she's fully rendered.
Mhm.
And this was actually for a manga contest, the silent manga edition, hence there's no like speech bubbles and no dialogue.
Mhm.
So yeah, that could be you.
Yes.
And we also have our student Eduardo. This is his progress in just 5 months. And when Eduardo joined us, he'd already had some experience like joining manga contests, but he joined us because the feedback he got from those contests was that he needed to improve like his storytelling techniques. So he joined the program because he just wanted to get mentorship from pros who've actually been published. Because if you've been published, then that means like your story was worth telling, your story was worth publishing, you know? So he joined the program because he wanted to improve his storytelling skills. And this is what he had to say. I reached a new level of detail and characterization, learned more about backgrounds and how to be more creative about doing things against a deadline. And the mentors always give away better feedback to my works than I would, and they genuinely want us to do a good job. So in just 5 months, Eduardo's made his storyboards and finished his pages, finished his one shot, and he already posted this actually, Cobra the Kid, the one on screen. He posted this one shot on Manga Plus Creators, which you can check out. You can just look it up, Cobra the Kid. And yeah, you've seen our students' progress, you've seen their results, and you've read how happy they are with the community and guidance from our mentors. So now the question is, do you want in too? Just type I want in the chat if this is something that you'd be interested um in participating in. Are you interested in getting the opportunity to learn directly from pro Japanese mangakas? Are you interested in getting mentorship from them and being part of a growing community of aspiring mangakas who are working towards the same goal as well of finishing their own mangas? And yes, you can join as a complete beginner. Any skill level, we're taking in students at any skill level, so if you've never drawn before, don't worry, because you are going to be learning manga drawing basics in the course. So if you want to make your time making manga more meaningful and more productive, then our online one-shot manga drawing program is for you, because we're on a mission to accelerate your growth, all while having fun learning together, and you will have, again, amazing pro mentors to guide you. So just to recap, we've worked with pro Japanese mangakas Naoya Yazawa and Renesaya, who have a combined experience of over 50 years in the Japanese manga industry. They've been published, they participated in contests. One of them has had their manga adapted into an anime, so they know what they're doing. And they're amazing mentors. And we also have our mentors, Steph Pastrano and Vivi. Steph is amazing, has amazing illustrations. He has an amazing art style. And right now he's currently a lead artist for an ongoing webtoon and is also working on his own doujinshi. And we also have Vivi, who is a pro manga editor with over 10 years of experience in the industry, and also worked with publishers like Koamix, the publisher behind the Silent Manga Edition, and Kadokawa, the publisher behind Bungo Stray Dogs and Lucky Star. So, you can also get a chance to go to Japan if you join the program and perform well in the program. So, for the most committed and high performing students in our program, they get the chance to fly to Japan on an all expenses paid trip and attend Comitia. Comitia is a top indie manga convention in Tokyo. And at Comitia, you can pitch your manga directly to Japanese publishers and editors. And don't worry, we'll help you translate your work to Japanese and hire translators on the ground to help you communicate better with publishers. And you will also get the chance to publish your manga in our official Learn to Draw manga anthology. This is something that we've been cooking up for a while now. We want to share our students' mangas, and what better way than a manga anthology, you know? All right. So, another reminder, you guys, we're not just taking in anyone. We want to work with aspiring manga artists who want to be empowered. So, this program is for you if you're at least 18 years old and comfortable writing and speaking in English, and you're a beginner who wants to learn how to draw manga and start telling your own stories, and you have a passion for manga and dream of getting published or winning contests with your original manga, and you're seeking confidence and a supportive community to share your art and grow as a manga artist. So, if this sounds like you, then you're invited to apply and join our program. Again, this is only for 18 years old and above. So, this is your time. This is your chance to transform your manga journey. Feel free to book a free manga consultation call with us right now. It's free. You don't have to pay anything. You just have to hop on a call with us and we'll discuss what we can do if you feel like you'd be a good fit for the program. All right. The link is in the description and I can send the link real quick, you guys. All right.
Hmm.
Before we end, I just want to leave you guys with this question. All right. So, where will you be tomorrow if you start today? All right. For those of you guys who are still unsure, still doubting whether or not you should make a manga, and I mean, if you're still here, right? You've made it all the way to the end of this workshop. It was a pretty long workshop, I'll admit. So if you're still here after that long workshop and after all of that discussion about how to make your manga pitch, then what is the point if you're not going to do anything about it after this workshop, right? So what's holding you back? I mean, now that you've learned how to make a pitch, the next thing is to move on to start to making your manga and actually start fleshing out your log line even more, you know? So after this workshop, it's time to actually put in the work and actually start making your manga, right? And would you rather make your manga by yourself without any guidance or any proven experience and mentorship from pro Japanese mangakas guiding you. That's what a lot of our students did after joining one of our workshops or after watching one of our videos. They applied to our program because they wanted to learn the right way, right? So now, after this workshop, what are you going to do, right? What's holding you back? So, your dreams, your goals of making manga is in your reach if you take that first leap of faith, right? Because if not now, then when? And when will you take that next step? So just imagine our students started at the start of the year back in January 2025 and just like more than halfway into the year, they've already made so much progress. They've made so much progress in like a span of 2 months and 5 months and a year, if you can recall the students that I talked about earlier. So there's so much progress that you could make if you start today, right? So I challenge you to take that next step and apply today. So, Coach Rem, anything you want to add? Anything you want to tell our students before we end today's session?
I guess just don't forget about Kiss and don't forget about the four elements of writing a log line. And in terms of like your stories, keep them straightforward, but also interesting, I guess. The keep in mind, manga is a storytelling uh, media, right? Uh, in terms of like stuff like One Punch Man, this the art isn't the main thing about it. It's the characters, it's a story, it's a narrative that drives them and gets the readers uh invested. So work on a solid story and then hopefully you get the artistic skill to back it up. And good luck. Good luck with your manga journeys, everybody.
Right, that ends our session for today, you guys. Again, thank you so much for coming. Thank you guys, and please make sure to like and subscribe to our channel if you want to stay tuned for more events like this. Again, thank you so much, you guys, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much. Have a great day, you guys. I will be ending the session now. All right, I'll see you guys at our next event.
Bye
Goodbye, you
bye. Bye
guys.
bye. Take care.